You started, Chairman. We're now live, Chairman.
Thank you, Emma. So, welcome to this regulatory meeting. It's being webcast on the YouTube via the County Council website, and it will be available for future viewing. I have to go through the process of reading out the names of the members in order to confirm your attendance. So I'll just briefly go through the list. First, Councillor House, can you confirm you're here?
I certainly am.
I can see you, but
I'll start my check.
Good. Thank you.
Here.
Councillor Burgess.
Here, Chairman.
David Dobson. Maybe on mute. Yeah, David, you're on mute.
Confirm I'm here.
Thanks, David. Chris Moody. And Nikki Heons, can you confirm you're here?
Yes, I'm here.
So, Chris, can you just confirm you're here?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
And Jason, can you confirm you're here?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you for that. Can I just remind everybody that understanding orders, could you keep your microphones muted unless you're called to speak or indicate you wish to do so? So, thank you to everybody for attending this morning. It's a day which is totally overshadowed by the desperately sad death of our chairman, Keith Evans, who died on the 27th of December of COVID-19 at the Queen Alexandra Hospital in Portsmouth. And the funeral will be on the 18th of January at the Wessex Vale Crematorium at 11:30. I've known Keith for over 30 years as a friend and a colleague. And frankly, he was an outstanding chairman of this committee over the 11 years that he served as a member of this board. And the users of this river have always, over that period, benefited enormously from his sound stewardship. As a man, Keith was a kind, modest, and private man. He was always patient, happy to listen to the opinions of others, and he was not a loquacious man. And because of that, we always listened carefully to what he said, because what he did say was always relevant and to the point. I will miss him greatly. I have many fond memories of him, which I'm not going to share with you today. I'll keep them to myself. I'm sure that many of you here will also have your memories, and you may wish now to pay tribute to Keith as well. So I will just conclude by saying, Keith, may you rest in peace. Does anyone else wish to say anything this morning? Councillor Burgess.
Thank you, Chairman. Just that in the 9 years that I've known Keith, he's always been a true gentleman and a very good friend. Thank you, Chairman.
Anyone else? Keith, Councillor House.
Yes, thank you, Peter. I perhaps didn't know, well, I certainly didn't know Keith anywhere near as long as you or Sean or other colleagues in the Fareham area. But I knew him through the county council. But as you say, he was always absolutely fair. he had a very quiet wit as well, which I thought was always worth paying attention to, because there were often little morsels and gems hidden away that you had to winkle out to realise what he was saying with his humour. I'll just share one other thought, which was a few years ago. I lived in a new housing area in Hedge End, and by sheer chance, Keith's son lived a few doors away from me, and just occasionally, Keith would turn up wearing his football shirt on a Saturday before going to a football match, and I just thought it showed a different side of his character that I wouldn't otherwise have been aware of as a county councillor, because it was just another side of actually a rather interesting man. So yeah, I'll miss him, and I was very sad to get the message from Sean that he'd passed away.
Thank you, Keith. I hope he was watching from afar on Monday night, because I know he'd have enjoyed that game. Nikki, you'd like to say a few words.
I would. Thank you, Peter. I mean, I only knew Keith through the Hamble board, and I think I've sat on it for about 6 or 7 years now, and he was always a very kind and gentleman, and he was particularly kind to me when my husband died 5 years ago. So I will always remember him with real kindness and fondness for his care at that time, and I'll miss him. He was a lovely man to work with. So yeah, I'm very sad.
Thank you, Nikki. David.
Thank you, Chair. Just to echo the sentiment that's already been expressed, I probably was on the board a similar period, and I've only known Keith through the Harbour board. And in addition to those comments already made, I always found him very courteous, very patient, and always good counsel. So he will be missed in his role, but I'm sure his family and friends will miss him more so. So God bless Keith.
Thank you, David. Those were wonderful expressions of grief. Jason, you wish to come in as well. Jason?
Thank you. The expression of compassion and feeling around the river has been noticeable. Keith was, as you say, Chairman, a fine steward. There have been letters of condolence from all quarters of the river, from organisations and people who over a decade ago, before Keith took stewardship, took issue with many of the things that were done here. Keith's legacy to the river is a very strong relationship with our friends and river users, and I think that's how I'll remember him.
Thank you, Jason. The only other person that I know wishes to speak, and a person that I have asked to come in this morning, is John Tickle. We all know John. I don't think he needs any introduction. So, John, over to you now.
Chairman, thank you very much. And may I thank you for giving me the opportunity to join the board to say a few words about Keith. I worked with Keith throughout the period of his chairmanship, and saw him, along with board members and indeed management committee members, steer the Harbour Authority to where it is now. And I think a lot of that, what I think is success, could be attributed to the way in which Keith conducted himself. And I'd like to just say a few words as a former officer on behalf of both myself and former officers. I'm sure current officers feel just the same, but with your permission, just to say a little bit about what it was like to work with Keith. I worked for the county for 33 years, and in that time I worked with an awful lot of elected members, and I can honestly say it was a privilege and a pleasure to work with Councillor Keith Evans. He was scrupulously polite, he was good-humoured, he was measured, but he was no slouch. Keith would use his business acumen to scrutinise things and always expect the very, very highest standards, which is precisely what elected members are there to do. And I think he deserves great tribute for that. Keith was always kind and fair, and David made mention of his humour, which I think always oils the wheels, particularly in difficult situations, and Keith was excellent at that. And I'd just like to finish by making a personal comment about how Keith conducted himself over the course of what was clearly a very serious illness. He never complained. He never made one single concession to that illness, and he focused on what he saw as his duty to do the very best he could for the Harbour Authority and for river communities. And I think he deserves immense tribute for that. Jason and I certainly found it inspiring, and I think it's a hell of a legacy for the man. So thank you, Chairman. I appreciate the opportunity to make those comments.
Thank you, John. Much appreciated that you should come this morning to pay your tribute as well. I'll move on now to the agenda. So if we could move over now to the first item on the agenda is apologies for absence. Well, I don't think there are any, Emma, so we can move on to item number 2, which is declarations of interest. David and Chris, you normally tell us your declarations of interest. I think, David, your declaration is normally midstream mooring and member of the RYA. And Chris, your Warsaw Sailing Club and chairman of the River Hamble Management Board and Marine Operators Association. Is that correct?
Chair, just to add, member of the Southern and RAF Club, as well as a mooring holder in RYA.
Right. Okay.
Thank
Chris?
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I confirm that's correct.
That's fine. Okay, so we move on then to the minutes of the last meeting, pages 5 to 8. I don't propose to go through the minutes. Are they a correct record of what happened at that meeting? Nobody's saying they're not.
Yes, Chair, they are.
Fine. Okay, lovely. So we move on to deputations. I don't think there are any. Chairman's announcements. The only announcement I've got to make is, of course, to mention that John Tickle has now retired, and we must all thank him for the immense contribution he was made to the Harbour Board over his involvement over, I think he said, the last 11 years or 13 years. He has been replaced by Patrick Blogg. Patrick is here this morning, and so we're going to be seeing more of him in due course. As I am chairing the meeting this morning, and nobody's told me to the contrary, so I'm assuming I'm going to be chairing this meeting until full council appoints a new chairman in due course, whenever that may be. So that's my announcements, and we then go to the draft minutes of the meeting of the River Hamble Harbour Management Committee. To receive those minutes. Having read the minutes of that meeting, it's a sort of almost pre-run of our meeting today. And everything that was on their agenda is coming up for discussion by us today or confirmation. Are we happy to receive those minutes? Nobody's saying to the contrary.
Yes,
Thanks,
yes,
everybody.
Peter.
So we then move to the item number 7, which is the Marine Director and Harbour Master's report, which is Jason's. Jason, thank you for your report. I can say it's an excellent, comprehensive report, which we've all read and have fully understood. I note particular references to items 5, 6 and 7. Do you in particular wish to highlight those items before I invite questions from the members?
Thank you, Chairman. Nothing in particular, just to say that the critical bit for me is item 5, I will draft the letter with your signature block for dispatch to the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency as the regulator. I'll take any questions at your convenience.
Right. Do we have any questions of Jason on his report? Would appear not, Jason. A clear run this morning there. Oh no, David's got a question.
Well,
David.
It's just an update on the continuing dialogue with Universal and the Crown Estate about the application that Universal put in. Is there any more to add, Jason, please?
No, nothing to add. The habitats risk assessment is being progressed. Habitats regulations assessment is being progressed by Alison, and any recommendations from that will come at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Jason. So that is item number 7. Item number 8 is the environmental update, which is Alison's report. Again, thank you, Alison, for your report. The point that I would particularly like you to dwell on is paragraph, I think, 9. If you could tell us more about that, because I am concerned that the Highways Agency clearly had the money for this, but they've used it elsewhere. And that's frankly disappointing. And although they've said that bids can go in again, I think your report indicates that it's 5 years. And are we then going to find in 5 years' time that we haven't got what we asked for already? I'd like real pressure to be put on Highways Agency, and I'd like to know exactly what has happened. Over to you.
Thank you. Yes, so just as a quick recap, the issue is that the drainage from the M27 runoff comes through pipes directly into the river, which presents risk not only of ongoing pollution from the highway, but also from the case of a one-off incident and the risk of a large oil spill, for example. We've been working with Highways England for many years on this issue, and we did get to the case, as you're all aware, where they had the funding, and we were assured that this would, the first part of the 2 options, that being that to cut off the direct drainage from the bridge itself, which runs directly through pipes into the water, that would be addressed through the smart motorway scheme currently underway to take advantage of that opportunity. The proposal was costed up, designed, and the funding was applied for and granted. Now, this was about £400,000 for that aspect. Now, the contractor who then had to undertake the work is the smart motorway contractor. The costing was done prior to this, of course. So when the smart motorway contractor came in, I think I was told the costs were over £1 million. The funding was not available. So whilst, yes, they had been granted funding, it didn't at all cover what the contractor had come in with. So that money was reallocated to other environmental improvement projects, and we were informed of this a few weeks ago and told that the rounds would then commence again with regard to applications for funding. Highways England are confident that funding will be forthcoming again because it's been successful in the past, but obviously we're talking about different figures now. I won't know the entire costs, obviously, but the smart motorway contractor will have finished that work. It will be as an entirely separate project. The work for us to do is to continue really with the support we provided sort of a technical support, if you like, to them. And Highways has actually asked us to continue to do that. And we feel that that, along with additional pressure, as per the recommendation in my report, will assist with that pressure coming forward to Highways. I'll probably stop there. There's quite a lot to be said, but I think the summary is that there is still the will to undertake it, and Highways have set out that there is a way to undertake it. It's just a case of going through that process and us bringing what information and pressure that we can to see that come to fruition.
Thanks, Alison. I note that the recommendation in this report that we write in strongest terms to Highways England about this, and I certainly feel that is the correct way to go ahead, and I hope the committee will be happy for me or whoever is chairman to write in those terms, and I'll discuss with Alison and Jason in due course exactly what we are going to say. Alison, is there anything else in your report which you wish to highlight?
No, I think it's fairly self-explanatory. Couple of very small points. I'm just highlighting, obviously, our compliance with the port waste reception regulations with regard to the port waste management plan, and relating to item 4, our marine licence is due any day now for our seawall repair work.
Nikki, you have a question.
I do. It's just a quick one. I wondered whether you could expand on item 6, the unpermitted developments, and what action is being taken so far.
Yes, we've on one particular one, which will be of more interest to yourself with respect to Natural England's role. That is, Natural England have undertaken a site visit to that site and have been in contact with the landowner with regard to the works on the designated site. With regard to the second one, that's still underway, and we're in discussion with the council as to whether planning policy has been breached. That one is right on the border of our jurisdiction, so it's a case of working with obviously all authorities to understand our appropriate ways of managing these developments and who takes what action.
Any other questions for Alison on that report? Yeah, not. So we move on to item number 9, which is the Jen is going to be presenting this one, which is the forecast outturn for 2021 and the forward budget for 21-22, which is a much more satisfactory situation that we've got today compared with this time last year. We can see that we have substantial revenue, more revenue this year, and which means I think it's 87,000 extra that we have this year, of which 35 will go over to the replacement reserve, and the rest will go into revenue reserve. And for the forward budget for 21-22, we have again a surplus, a substantial surplus there, which will enable us to again do the 35,000 into replacement reserve and further funds to bolster our revenue reserve. Jenny, over to you to explain it in detail.
Thank you. Yes, so that's actually the key points that I would have pulled out myself, really. So
Sorry.
That's a very useful summary. I think I should just very quickly rattle through. So the forecast position for this year, as you've said, looking really good. So we will be able to make our contribution to the asset replacement reserve in full and top up the general reserve, which had been reduced right down to only £189. So that's now looking much more healthy. As we've said in the report, very minimal impact as a result of COVID expected on the budget. So I think we'd talked last time about some impact on the visitors' income at the start of the year, that we had started seeing improvements over the later bits of the year, but against that some savings on the seasonal staff. On the business as usual side, very much as we put to budget. So as you said already, Chair, very little change to the budget there, and a positive position for this year. So moving forward to the forward budget for approval. So again, we would be able to make the full contribution to the asset replacement reserve, and add a further £27,000 to the revenue reserve, again increasing that balance there. Worth mentioning that for the forward budget, we haven't incorporated any potential impact of COVID-19, and that's just because of the uncertainty of it all. So potentially there could be some pressures or on income or expenditure that we haven't factored into the budget for the coming year. Also just wanted to pull out, you'll see that the expenditure budget, or the proposed expenditure budget for next year, includes a £34,000 increase. The majority of that, £24,000, relates to staffing. At the time of producing the accounts, we had factored in for pay inflation. Yeah. So we've since had the announcement that there will be a public sector pay freeze, so it's likely the actual staffing costs will be lower than we've put there. Just to give the board an indication, it was about £9,000 that we'd factored in for pay inflation. We've also increased them for allowances, plus also the staff step pay progression. There's also within the biennial bathymetric survey is an extra £5,000 that we allow for every couple of years. And then the known increases to the business rates, and also the new Harbour assist system cost. The income budget has also increased, and that's to reflect the agreed 2% increase to the Harbour dues for the calendar year, and also we just have the inflationary increase on the management contract with the Crown Estate. In terms of the reserve balances, so by the end of March 2021, we're expecting the revenue reserve to be back up to £55,000. And in terms of the forward budget, that would increase the revenue reserve to £82,000. As I've flagged in the report, that if that did happen, that would mean that technically the balance in the general reserve was in excess of the 10% maximum that was agreed by the board previously. What I'm proposing in the report is that, bearing in mind that's 2 years away and it's based on a number of assumptions, if you like, that rather than try and deal with that now, we delay that decision, if you like, and see where are we in a year's time to see are we still looking to be like we will be exceeding the 10% maximum. And it is worth bearing in mind, obviously there are some uncertainties there in the budget with the COVID impact. There's also, just as I have flagged in the report, you will remember we used to pay £25,000 to the pension fund to bridge the pension fund gap. We had the actuary's valuation a year or two ago now, I want to say, which meant that we could stop paying that £25,000. There'll be the next actuarial review in another year or two, and potentially we could have to make that payment again. So there are things that we need to keep in mind, I think, before thinking there's lots of money coming in. So we just need to be mindful of those. And with that, I will be happy to take any questions.
Jason, your hand's up.
Thank you, Jenny, very much indeed. And thanks again for the hard work of your team in putting that together. I just thought it might be welcome to give a short update on what the impact of COVID continues to be. This morning, hot off the press, the Department for Culture, Media and Sport has included formally sailing as exercise, and within wider government constraints about social distancing, not overnighting on boats. That is really the approval for people should they wish to go sailing sensibly. What that may mean is that we do receive daily visitors. We receive a little bit more income there. The river at the moment is, I would say, hugely quiet. People are staying away. I have had two questions only from a rower and a dinghy sailor as to whether they can go sailing. The guidance we have given on our website has dealt with that, and it's namely that exercise is really up to the individual within the context of the very sad news we hear daily about deaths and wider cases, which everybody collectively needs to consider before putting additional emergency services at risk. And people are getting that. They're really getting it. And it's really governing itself at the moment. But germane to Jenny's paper, we will watch closely over the coming 3 months the rate of income and hopefully the figures that are that we're expecting will be delivered. We have not done too badly despite the COVID outbreak over the past 10 months.
Thank you, Jason. Chris, I can see your hand up. Have you got a query?
Yes, Chairman. I don't know if it's the right time to bring it up, but what is happening in reference to the Hamble toilets, and is there any update?
I'm sorry, Chris, would you repeat that, please?
So what is happening with regard to the Hamble toilets and facilities?
Thank you. Nothing has happened over the past 10 months is the short answer. The last issue related to the water supply, which was to do with who would pay for the heating of the water and who would pay for the sampling of the water spray that came out in confined spaces because of Legionella. So there were those two issues. And the final issue was to do with a cleaner who had been assaulted over there in cleaning the two heads toilets adjacent to the showers that we paid for. And that cleaning arrangement was also to be finalised. But given COVID, nothing so far has happened. But I will pick that up again with Amanda Jobling, who is the parish clerk over at Hamble Parish Council. Over the course of the past year, I mea culpa, it has not been my priority, and those shower facilities have not been in heavy demand. So it has not reached the top of the priority list, but it ought to.
Okay, Chris.
Yes, thank you, Chairman.
Any other questions on the financial situation? No. Well, there are 4 recommendations in this report, which are set out at the beginning of it. That the projected outturn for 2021 is noted, proposed forward budget is approved, that the balance is held within the reserves and the improved position on the general reserve balance are noted, and that the proposal to postpone the decision on the possible excess in the revenue reserved based on the proposed 21-22 forward budget be approved. Are they all approved?
Yeah.
Looks as if everybody's nodding. So we can move on now to the next item on the agenda, which is a review of fees and charges, item number 10. Jason, I think this is yours, and the proposal is to increase the charges as set out in the report, essentially by 2%, but over to you.
Thank you. That is the case, just to mirror the increase in charges for harbour dues. In reality, the difference that the 2% will make across this board is quite small, but it is consistent with the decision to raise harbour dues and therefore appropriate. Some of the fees are quite modest in comparison to other harbours, but they're realistic in terms of the time that it takes us to deliver them mostly. The only one that I would draw members' attention to specifically is a doubling of the charge levied for jet ski launches, and following some investigation and a particularly lucrative day for us over the summer, where many jet skis displaced from other closed slipways came to us. Our jet ski launch fee was £5 per launch with a free car parking. And when one looks at the volume and the attractiveness of what we offer, the access to the Solent, the car parking and so on, we thought it might be a good idea to check other adjacent harbours and see what charges were being made there. And that check revealed that that jet ski launches were variously between £10 and £14.71. So given the amount of work that jet skis create, not through their attractiveness and their popularity more than anything else, an increase from £5 to £10 seemed entirely appropriate.
Thank you, Jason. Graham, you've got a query, and then Chris. Graham first.
Well, just one. Jason, I'm sorry that you're bearing the brunt of jet skiers who used to use the slipway at Leon Solent, but due to your sort of increased usage, we've had lots and lots of problems with jet skiers in the sense of either trying to get them to have insurance or registration. Are you having similar problems yourselves? Thank you, Chairman.
No, that is a very timely question. Various approaches are being taken across the Solent and Southern Harbour Masters Association with regard to trying to increase standards in a community that I think it's fair to say has variable levels of adherence to norms. There are the vast majority of these people are very, very keen. They are very proud of their assets. They take great care of them. They're not cheap, and they like going out for various reasons, and will be insured. They will adhere to bylaws and general regulations, not only within the Hamble but in adjacent waters. So there is a degree of conformity that largely applies. There is, of course, in any standard deviation curve an element that does not, and we are working very closely with Hampshire Marine Police Unit and across the Solent and Southern Harbour Masters Association to establish a list of side numbers and details regarding jet ski owners for a number of reasons, among them the one that you mentioned. Another associated benefit is that for some who do misbehave, there's misbehaviour in every area of boating at some stage, mostly thankfully minor. There are tendencies for some of these craft to interfere with other traffic, particularly commercial traffic in Southampton water. And where that is so, it is possible for us, using a database that will be maintained by Hampshire Marine Police Unit, to bear down on those individuals. So I think there's a degree of, what I would like to say, there's a degree of regulation, wider regulation going on that's linking all of these things together.
Thank you, Jason. Chris, you have a question.
Yeah, my concern is that whilst the upgrading fees may prove to be a detriment to people enjoying their jet skis, also the problem may arise because of car park charges of where they're going to park their trailers. And I don't think we can do anything about it, but I just wanted to make aware that firms should bear that in mind with regard to car park charges regarding trailers.
Thank you, Chris, and that's a very good point. The primary launching area, as members will appreciate, for jet ski launches is Warsash, for two reasons. One, the slipway's good and big, and second, the available car parking facilities. The slipway is characterised by being quite wide and broad, particularly at the top, and most of the jet skiers have developed their own culture of parking the trailers at the top corner of the slipway and out of the way, and that requires a certain amount of policing from us during busy periods, and that is an additional reason for increasing the launch fee, increasing justification for launching for the launch fee going up in the way that it is. But the car parking over the summer is busy, but I would say at this stage manageable. There are, of course, the wider COVID restrictions, which means that the level of car parking use may not quite be what might routinely be expected. And those pressures we may come to see this summer, and we'll keep an eye on it.
I expect, Keith, you're relaxed about this one, because it'll be Fareham Borough that will be putting the charges up. Absolutely. Any other queries on that item? In which, if not, then the recommendation is that we approve the fees and charges and advertise them on the River Hamble website. Is that agreed? Good. So that's that one through. So the final item on the agenda is our forward programme for future meetings. That we note that report as any. I think we got one further meeting that I know of before we're likely to have any elections, and that's on the 9th of April. I can't see anything on that one of any particular concern. The main item will be Universal Marine. I expect the application for Harbour Works consent. Are we happy with the forward plan? Okay. Well, then that then concludes the meeting. I will ask the website to be now webcast to be closed. Just before, though, can I remind Alison and Jason that we need to get together to write to Highways England regarding that item on the agenda. I do feel we've been let down, and I think we do need to write in the strongest terms to our MPs. Whether it will have any effect, I don't know, but at least we have done our best for the board, and we need to get on with that ASAP. David, do you want, I can see you're coming in on this one.
Just a supplementary point, and I don't know whether it's possible for Alison or Nikki to in any way quantify the level of pollutants passing into the river. If we have to wait another 5 years, could there be some order of magnitude which would help to highlight the potential damage, notwithstanding any one-off incident?
We can certainly look into that, David. Okay, so I will now ask that the website be closed.